I'm Darren.
And today we're gonna bring y'all along as we smoke some ribs and mac and cheese.
All right.
It really does have good baby back ribs for the price. Even when grocery stores have ribs on sale, sometimes they're not as good, you know, as priced as Aldi. So he got 2 racks. We're gonna do one with dry rub and then one with sauce at the end. We're gonna do the 3-2-1 method. But anyway, this rack was $12.85 and the other one was around $10. And this one is nice and meaty, really big, so great price on those. I'm gonna show y'all how I make our dry rub for our ribs. I pretty much do it this exact way every single time. We just really love this combination of spices. So first, in a medium-sized bowl, I'm gonna do 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Now this, we'll probably use all this for 2 racks of ribs. You can put it in a jar and just save it if you don't want to use quite as much spice on your ribs. But like I said, we'll probably go ahead and use all this for the 2 that we're doing today. So I have the 1/2 cup of sugar. Next, I have 2 teaspoons of cumin. I have 1 teaspoon of minced onion. Normally I would actually use ground onion, but I'm out, so I'm just doing that. I have 3 teaspoons of black pepper. I have 2 teaspoons of ground mustard. 3 teaspoons of pink Himalayan salt. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. And 3 teaspoons of smoked paprika. So we're just gonna mix that all up, and then this will be ready to add to our ribs. So next, what we're gonna do is remove the membrane from the underside of your ribs. He's already removed this one, so I'm gonna show you how to remove it. It's pretty simple. You can use a knife, your fingers, paper towel, whatever you wanna do, just get it off of there. Basically, if you leave it on there, it gets kind of tough, and it's not really, you know, you don't wanna eat that. And then also, it prevents your seasonings and stuff from getting down into the meat. So you just always wanna remove that membrane.
All right, so I've cut a line through the middle of this. Some people can usually go on the ends, but I find it easier to go on either side, or right in the middle and pull it on either side. So just get a paper towel and just get that membrane once it's cut. Grab it and rip it. And now I can do this side. Grab it and rip it. That's it. So guys, I'm putting this rub on. So on the back side where you took the membrane off, you want to rub it just a light layer, because it's going to eventually like drip off a little bit. So you don't want to put a whole lot on this side. But I'll show you a trick on the other side here in just a second.
So for the trick, you will need a binder for your seasoning. So he just uses some regular old yellow mustard. Can't taste it if you've never tried it before. You can't really tell, you know, you can't tell it's mustard on there. It just binds all your seasonings to your ribs. So just gonna rub that on, and then he'll season this side. So we got our ribs out here at our smoker. So we are using a 3-2-1 method, like I said. So basically the 3 just means we're gonna put these directly on the grill, unwrapped, for 3 hours on the lowest setting or the smoke setting. So after those 3 hours, we will wrap them, and then they will stay for another 2 hours. And then that last hour is when you do your sauce and you put it back on the smoke setting. So of course we'll show you guys that, but for now, the first step, smoke for 3 hours. It's about 200 degrees right now, just low and slow. All right, so we've had the ribs on 3 hours so far. They already look and smell amazing. We're sitting out here like basking in the smell. So anyway, Darren's gonna go ahead and take the ribs off. We're gonna take them inside. We'll show y'all how we're gonna wrap them up in aluminum foil, tin foil as we say here in the South. We're gonna add a little apple juice, and they'll go back on the smoker for 2 hours. So what we do is flip the ribs over to where they're upside down, and then it's natural little well there on the underside of the ribs. That's where we're gonna add a little apple juice, which is gonna keep these ribs super moist. It's gonna add some flavor. They are always so good. All Alright, so we got the ribs wrapped. We're just gonna place them back on for a couple hours and we will check back in. So to go alongside of our ribs, I'm going to show y'all how I make smoked mac and cheese. I'm going to start with 3 different types of cheeses. You can use any that you want. I like to do a sharp white cheddar, a regular cheddar, and then a Gruyere. I'm going to shred up all 3 of these cheeses. You can just use pre-shredded cheese, but I find with recipes like this that you really want to be super cheesy and smooth and creamy, it's best to use fresh cheese and grate it yourself if you can. Alright, so I have all 3 cheeses shredded up. I have my Gruyere here, that's what I have the least amount of. Then I have that sharp white cheddar and then just sharp regular cheddar. So what I like to do per pound of macaroni noodles, I like to do about 5 cups of cheese. So no matter what kinds you choose to do, it's about 5 cups. So I would say that's about a cup of Gruyere in this bowl. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a few handfuls of white cheddar. And then a couple handfuls of regular sharp cheddar. And then I'll just save the rest of these for whatever else we eat throughout the week. Those will be delicious. There's nothing like freshly shredded cheese. So this is what will go in my mac and cheese here in just a second. We're about to go ahead and start on that now. Alright, so to go on top of our smoked mac and cheese, to take it to even that next level, we like to put panko breadcrumbs on top of our mac and cheese. So I'm going to toast those up in a little bit of butter. I have a half a stick of butter over here. We're going to add 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs. We're also going to add a little bit of Lowry's seasoned salt. That's going to give it a nice little season. I'm going to toast them up in that butter. It's going to be so delicious. Add a little crunchy texture on top of that creamy, cheesy mac and cheese. It's going to be so perfect. So this is so easy. All I'm doing is melting the butter. I'm going to add the 1 cup of panko. I'm just going to toast them until they start to turn a little bit brown and toasted. I'll move them to the side and then I'm going to put them on top once the mac and cheese is cheesy and combined on the stove. Alright, breadcrumbs are toasted. We're going to start on our cheese sauce. So I have 1 stick of butter over here melted in my pan. My pan's a little bit hot. I'll turn it down. It'll be alright. This is not a healthy recipe. It's a good recipe. Next to our butter, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of flour. This is what will create our creamy texture and thicken up our sauce. I just have my whisk here. I'm just going to start whisking this all together. And this is what you call your roux for your cheese sauce. Once that butter gets all melted, I'm going to start adding in our cheese. It will begin to melt. This is a very quick thing. So make sure you are ready to do this, when it's time. You can't be doing 2 things at once when you're doing your cheese sauce. So my butter has finished melting. I'm going to start adding in my cheese over here. And then once it starts to melt, I'm going to kind of add my half and half. I'm going to add 2 cups of half and half as I continue whisking everything together. It's going to all combine and melt and be all creamy and cheesy and delicious. Alright, so my first camera battery went dead. But basically, I've just added all my cheese in here. They've melted. And I've added about 2 cups of half and half. You can add more or less milk or half and half, that you want to, but I want mine to be pretty thick when I add my noodles in. So I've added about 2 cups of half and half. I'm just kind of still whisking it all together to get it really, really smooth. And as soon as our noodles are done, I'm going to drain those and pour those into the pan with my cheese sauce. Also at this point, this is when you can add in your seasonings. So for our seasonings, all I'm going to add is a little bit of black pepper. a tiny bit of salt. We're not going to add too much because our cheeses and everything are pretty salty, as well as those breadcrumbs. And then also I'm going to add a little sprinkle of ground mustard to this cheese sauce. You want to make sure you spray your aluminum pan really well so nothing will stick when it's on the smoker for so long. So once I got the 2 pans of mac and cheese all assembled with the breadcrumbs on top, we put these on the smoker and we just let them smoke for the last hour to an hour and a half of our ribs. Of course, you can't have a barbecue without some sweet tea, so I'm just mixing up a jug of that for us, and I do have a video linked down below if you want to see how to make it. Alright, so we've reached the point where we only need to smoke it for about another hour. So on our rack that we're going to sauce, we just went ahead and picked up this Stubbs sticky sweet sauce. Of course, you can make your own, but to make it easy, this is what we're going to use. Plus, it's really good. So like I said, we're just going to sauce one. We're going to unwrap them both, and then we're going to leave them on the smoker for about another hour on the lowest smoke setting. So to the ribs that we sauced, we just sauced those right on top of the smoker. And I have to tell y'all, they were so good. Normally, I am a dry rub type of person, but Darren and I both actually preferred the sauced ribs this time, which is kind of surprising. They were so good. So everything turned out so perfect. These ribs were absolutely fall off the bone, tender, and that mac and cheese was so heavenly. Even if you don't have a smoker, you could make this mac and cheese in your oven. But thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I hope that y'all enjoyed. I hope you give these recipes a try. Make sure you subscribe before you go, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye, y'all.